Good morning. Sorry about the delay. We've had a few technical problems, but they're now resolved, I'm pleased to say. What a fantastic turnout. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the understudy to Robert Proctor, who was the previous chairman, and he's handed over to me now to see what sort of a job I can do. For those of you that have been marooned in the Caribbean or on a cruise ship for the last 3 months, this is the weather we've been having, isn't it? It's been a terrible summer, I have to say. Anyway, before I hand over to Yvonne, I just want to say one big thank you to all of you, first of all, for rejoining U3A. And if there are any new members in the audience, could you just raise your hands so we know who you are, please? Excellent. Thank you very much for that. The other thing I'd like to do is to thank Anne Trant and Peter for the work that they've done on the new website. I can tell you now that even if you're technically minded, the amount of effort that they've put in for this new website has been absolutely tremendous. And I wouldn't mind if we just show them a round of applause for the work that they've done. So thank you for that. I'll hand over to Yvonne now, and she will tell you what's on the calendar coming forward.
Right. I'm never very good with this thing, but hopefully I'll get on with it okay. So hello, yes, it's wonderful to see so many of you here this morning. Thanks for coming. I've got quite a long list of things to say, so I'll try to rattle through them. The first is, and it's what I'm holding, is we've been awarded for outstanding achievement. Hooray. Basically, this is the U3A in Scotland has awarded us a certificate for outstanding achievement, which my lovely assistant is now going to hold up for you to see. Thank you. I'm going to put it down. So that's that. Now, Graham has already mentioned the new website. I've got a couple of things I also wanted to say about it, which is it's worth bearing in mind that the website isn't just for people thinking of joining us, it's also for people who are already members, because it's got lots of useful information for you as well. Particularly if you go to the groups section, there's some really useful information there about when each group meets and where, and you can click on a button to see all the meeting dates for all the groups. So please do have a look at it. Oh, and the other thing is a suggestion that you bookmark the site once you've found it so that you can find it easily in the future. Now, I wanted to have a word about Unit 7. For new members, Unit 7 is a place where many groups meet over the year. And you can find its location, guess where? On the website. Also in Unit 7, new this year, is the Perth U3A 21st Anniversary Tapestry. Is at last been mounted on one of the walls there. And this is a very jolly looking thing, and we hope cheers up the room a bit, because people have said it's a bit utilitarian looking. You can also have some fun guessing the names of the groups that were around at that time. And finally, about Unit 7, if you're the last person leaving Unit 7, please do make sure the room is locked, because we now have quite a lot of valuable equipment stored there. So just remember that. Now, indoor bowls. Irene Twin and John Babb are considering starting a new indoors bowls group, which will most likely be at the North Inch Bowling Club. So if that's something that would be of interest to you, please get in contact with Irene. Is Irene here, and could you sort of stand up and wave a hand? There she is, down over there. What else have I got? Oh yes, it's time for my annual plug for Riviera Travel. The reason that I plug Riviera Travel is because if you book with them, we get a 10% donation of the value of your booking, which is quite nice, and every year we get a nice check from them. So obviously other travel agencies are available, but do consider it. And then my last item is just to let you know about the next open meeting, which will be on Monday, 30th of September, and it'll be a talk given by the Woodland Trust, given by a chap called Ian Baird. And do remember these meetings are open meetings, which means you can bring along friends and family as well, if you like, although I'm not quite sure where we'd fit them all. But there we go. So thank you for listening.
Right, thank you. Just one more thing I'd like to say. We're getting towards Christmas. So I booked the Christmas lunch at the Black Watch, which we had a very successful one last year, I thought, on December the 4th, Wednesday, December the 4th. So what I'll be doing later on this week is I'll be sending out all the information about the lunch along with the menus. If you're interested in going to the lunch, please just email me back, let me know. At some point in time before now and Christmas, just let me know what your preferences are in terms of what you want, either 2 or 3 courses, and we'll sort all that out for you as we did last year. So thank you for that. Right, let's get on to the day's business. So the day's business today is we've got these 2 gorgeous ladies, Karen and Tracy, who are going to tell us all about the life of the honeybee. So I'll hand over to you 2 ladies, and thank you, and we'll enjoy it. Thank you.
Wow, this is the biggest crowd that we've ever had, so please be gentle. We walked in and I went, oh my God. So just be gentle with us. So first of all, I'd like to thank Graham for inviting us along back in September of last year, I think it was. Yeah, and then obviously to Dave as well, that we've been in contact, and John up there, who's absolutely brilliant. He's just sorted out all the technical issues. So if you've ever got any Excel issues or anything like that, he's the man, okay? So thank you very much for inviting us along today. Okay?
Yeah, just wow, really. And I feel a bit like a pop star having this as well. So the aim of today is hopefully by the end of it, you'll get a better understanding of the life of a honeybee. And if you don't, we might. Do we have any beekeepers or bee farmers in the room? Great. Do you want to get a chair and come up here? They always say that if you have 13 beekeepers in a room, you ask them a question, you get probably 26 answers to that one question. So we'll get their advice as well. Anybody scared of bees? Oh. Okay. We haven't brought any with us today. It's a bit cold for them. They've got the right idea. They're in the hive. But hopefully, by the end of it, you'll have a bit more of an understanding of why they fly towards you when you think they're trying to fly towards you when they're not. So hopefully that'll help. And anybody that doesn't like honey?
Oh, there you
That's
go.
That's okay. My mum's the same. I'm a bee farmer, my sister's a bee farmer, my dad's a bee farmer, and my mum likes jam. So we'll show you some honey later on, and if you want a taste, you can taste some honey as well. If I don't speak very loud, apparently I haven't got a big mouth, I've just very quietly spoken. So let me know and I'll shout a bit louder. Okay.
Shaz got a big mouth, trust me. Right, so who are we? Well, I'm Karen, that's Tracy, and then we've obviously got me dad. Now, my dad is supposed to be the boss, but it's not, it's me mum. My mum's the boss, like most women are, and then we've got my husband, Jason. So predominantly, there is me, Tracy, and my dad, and we run the honey farm business. We're full-time carers for our mum as well. So one of us has to be at home with our mum, who is 24-hour care. And it was her birthday yesterday, she was 82, she got dementia, and she wanted a party with a Christmas dinner. So we had a party and Sunday dinner, and if you've ever had a wine in a party cup, my dad, Jason, and my Uncle Brian did yesterday. So we've got a wee pictures there of us all. There's us 3. The picture with the dog, the wee little Shih Tzu, is Ellie. And that's because we were on the Farmers Country Showdown. I don't know if any of you've seen it. It wasn't Crime Watch we were on telly for, it was the Farmers Country Showdown. And they filmed us for 2 whole days, and we literally got 20 minutes on the television. And that was an experience, because we forgot we had these microphones on. And you have to remember to take them off when you go to the toilet. So, you know, you've got to be careful when you're wearing a microphone. And then we've got Jason there. At the top is my mum. And then coming down the side is Jason, my dog. And unfortunately, his bite is worse than his back. And then we've got the pygmy goats, Tom and Jack, who's my mum's, because she wanted them apparently all her life. We thought you should forget about them with dementia, but did she bugger her on her 80th birthday? We had to go and get some pygmy goats for her. And then we've got all the other animals that we've adopted on the farm, feral cats, etc., etc. So we started off the business purely because my dad had to take early retirement. He took early retirement because of mum's ill health, which was quite lucky. Sorry, darling, that one. You've gone forward too much, bud. There you go.
I'm terrible at technology. That's why I didn't go up there. I don't touch that because it will break. I'm telling you, I just have to look at it in the break, so I apologise.
So my dad took early retirement, and that was because of mum's ill health. So my dad was a workaholic. He had a very high-powered job, and what can we do to keep my dad entertained? Otherwise, my mum and dad are going to kill each other, being at home all the time. So we bought him literally a hive with nothing in it. My mum read all the books, told my dad what to do the right way, and then he went and he learnt about bees and everything. And then every single summer, myself and Tracy would come up, and that's what our job was. We were helping out with the bees. And then Tracy decided that she had a rubbish time at work. Tracy lived in Leicester as a social worker, and decided, I've had enough. She couldn't afford the Ferrari, midlife crisis, so she thought, I'm going to give everything up and go and live in Scotland. So she didn't get the Ferrari. She phoned me up and she said, I'm going to go and live in Scotland. So I got off the phone and said to my husband, we can't just live on our own in Manchester while they're up there having a good time. So we decided again, we're going to sell up. So that was it. Tracy sold up with a cat. No, 2 cats, 1 dog. I sold up with 1 dog, 1 husband. We moved up to the Crook of Devon. I don't know if any of you know the Crook of Devon. We all moved into the Crook of Devon into 1 house. My dog don't like cats. I've not lived with my parents since I was 18. They moved off. And that was us in the house. So, no, we didn't kill everybody in that house, but that was us. And then we went searching for somewhere, and we went to Cloverlea. And we found Cloverlea. And it all stemmed off from there, didn't it, Tracy?
Yeah.
So, Cloverlea. Does anybody know the Pathaconda? Yeah? Right. Well, we live up there. And when we went to the Pathaconda, we were just all out on a jolly, a drive. My mum was at home. At this time, she wasn't as bad as she is now. And we pulled up and we went, that's a nice house down there. And then we went back and told my mum that we'd bought a house and she was moving. So we went back, we decided, we went to every single farmer throughout the glen. You all right? Am I? Okie dokie. Oh, that bit. There you go. It's all right,
I got this one, I didn't get one of them. I'm feeling a bit lost now. We can use this one if you want. It's no problem. We are really good bee farmers. We really are. We treat our bees are fine. It's just people.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to carry on talking until John switches it on so I can talk. Oh, there we go. So, we went to all the farmers up and down the glen and asked them, is it okay if we keep bees? What we want to do is promote Scottish native honeybees and local bees. We don't want to import. And we were lucky enough that every farmer said, yes, we won't keep bees. So that enabled us to then have a breeding apiary at Cloverlea. And that was one of the main things that we wanted to do at Cloverlea. And plus, we had to live next door to one another. So we got Cloverlea, and basically, whoops, it's gone forward twice again. Must be too hard on me press. It's very, very remote apiary where we live. So, thank you. You got it.
There you go. Oh, no.
Gone forward.
Oh,
there you go.
I want a round of applause every time I do that right, you know.
It's a very remote apiary where we are. And as you know, the people that know Pathacondi, it's very rural, it's grazing land. So they have a lot of sheep on there, cattle on there, nothing else really but gorse. And Tracy will explain in a moment that honeybees aren't on the decline. Bumblebees and so forth are. And because we were bringing a business in that doesn't eat grass, basically, and doesn't go on grass, what we wanted to do at Cloverlea was to be able to sustain our business, but also not have it an impact on anything else within the environment. If we were to do that, we would be taken away because we've tipped that balance. So we wanted to make sure that the balance was right where we were. So at Cloverlea, we've actually planted over 3 acres of wildflower meadows and umpteen hundreds of pollinating trees. And we've done it all ourselves. Yes, when we moved in, we didn't have tractors. In fact, some of the farmers used to go past and laugh at us because we would be there with the shovels like this. And yes, me and Tracy do the work. And my dad as well, and Jason. And my mum tells us if we're doing it right. So we've planted them all, and then what we've done as well is we've had a schoolhouse. We purchased a schoolhouse ourselves so that we could bring children down and learn and educate children on beekeeping, but also the environment. We've also got 2 designated cabins, one for the honey house and one for our candles and cosmetics. We were one of the first in Perth that ever had a honey house approved by the local authority for extracting honey. So that amazes us really, that there's a lot of people selling honey, etc., but they're not approved. So we had to go through quite a rigid process where we had to have documents so that they could come and audit our honey house to make sure that I wasn't in there scratching my armpits with a scraper before I scraped it and jarred it into your honey. Okay, so your honey is definitely clean and the labels are absolutely perfect because my dad does them.
And I was really lucky that she was ex-health and safety executive, so I didn't have to do any writing.
So, you can put it on, forward it over for us, bud. There we go. So what do we do at Cloverlea? We breed bees. We do not import bees at all. The importation of honeybees is killing our own honeybee off. So it's a bit like the red squirrel, the grey squirrel. That's killing it off. Okay? So we don't import any bees. We breed our own, Scottish and local. That's what we breed. We're also honey producers. So we produce honey. So everything that you see, we go out to the bees, me and Tracy, we bring it back. My dad will extract it all, my dad will jar it all, and my dad labels it all. And believe you and me, those labels will be perfect, because he's even made a little jig for them. And if me and Tracy try and do it, we can't, can we, Tracy? Because we don't get it right. It has to be perfectly level. So he's even made a jig. We also make honey mustards. We make a honey mustard and a honey and Guinness mustard, traditional family recipe. And we also do handmade candles, we do aromatherapy candles, and we also do Be Natural skincare range, which we've all got fully approved as well. So you have to get that approved and then go on legally onto a cosmetic portal. We attend many, many farmers markets, hence we were going to bring some products today, but we haven't, because we would like it if you would go to Perth Farmers Market this weekend. We could bring it here, and it would be great if you could buy everything, but it's attending, and it's all about community and farmers markets for us as well. We also supply a number of local shops, independent shops, but we're very mindful that we don't go everywhere, because if one reason we can't get the honey supply in because of the weather, we don't want to let people down. So it's independent shops. We run training courses, we run experience days, and if any of you fancy coming away on a glamping retreat, we've also got off-grid shepherd huts where you can experience days there. So, Tracy? No, that's you.
So, bees, that's about us. Now we'll talk a bit about bees. There's over 270 species of bees in the UK. So every year we usually get a phone call saying, I've got a swarm, it's going into my wall. And we'll say, send a picture. They send us a picture. When you get it, it's usually a masonry bee. Or you'll get one and it'll be, I've got a nest in my shed, and we go over, or we'll take a picture, and when we go over, it's usually a solitary bee. Out of the 270 species of bees, there is actually 250 that are solitary bees. So basically what they do is they live on their own. Well, they stay in a nest. Once they hatch out, they will leave, they will find a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they go off. They last the summer, and then they die out, so they last the season. Honeybees are slightly different. They can't last on their own. They have to live in a colony. And they're the only bee, in fact, they're one of the only insects, unless you eat widgety grubs or whatever's on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, that actually provides food for humans. When you think about it, grasshoppers do and things like that, but not the way we do it. So since we've been looking at bees, there has been a decline in over 4 different species in the last few years that have actually just extinct. And that's what is at danger. Honeybees aren't at risk. We have and we manage our honeybees, because that's what we do. We're beekeepers or we're bee farmers. Where your solitary bees, they're the ones that are at risk. So everyone, if I had £1 for everybody that said to me at a farmer's market, I'd love to keep bees, and I say to them, so why do you want to do it? Because I want to save the bees. The best thing you can do if you want to save the bees is look after your solitary bees and not your honeybees. If you had a hive of honeybees and you started it up, your first jar of honey would probably cost you about £1,000 nowadays. So when you think about saving the bees, it's about saving solitary bees and not honeybees. You got it? So, hives. Honeybees, obviously, we keep them in hives because it's easier. A lot of beekeepers will do natural beekeeping, and that means that they don't have frames in the hive. They'll let them build brace comb. The problem is with that the queen lays all over the place and in the hive, in the colony, and you can't then extract honey from that unless you've actually got eggs in it and things like that. So we use national hives, that's those ones. They're not very pretty ornate ones that you see in gardens, that are WPC hives. They're great to look at, very ornamental in your garden, but they're a nightmare to work with. So when you've got 250 hives that you're managing on a regular basis, the easier the better. We have 2 different types of hives. We have the national ones that are there, and we also have our Longstraft hives as well that are for production. So at the bottom you've got a floor, you've then got a brood box, and then you have frames in the brood box, and then you have what they call a queen excluder. So the queen stays in the bottom box, if you think about it. She lays her eggs in there. She can't get up through the excluder, but the bees can come up and down. So she can't lay her eggs in what they call the honey super. And that is where bees put their honey. When they've collected enough nectar that they don't put it in the brood box, they'll take it up to the super. And that's their winter stores. That's their extra that we'll take off them and harvest and put in the jar for you. As bee farmers, we never take honey from the brood frames, because that's theirs, that's what they've earned. And if the hive is a bit light coming into winter, 9 times out of 10, we end up giving him that super as well. Because to be honest, our bees are the most important for us. If we lose a hive, that loses production next year. And when we breed year after year, it takes a while to build those numbers up. So we want to really look after them. So, I've got a video here for you to have a look at. And this is me, or Karen, I can't remember who did it now. But this is us when if you think, I've opened the box, I've took the lid off, I've took the super off, I've took the queen excluder, and now I'm looking in.
You can hear it. The actual bees, when we're looking at them, they're not bothered about us one little bit. They go about their job, and it's actually quite calming to see the bees because they're completely not interested in you at all. And that isn't one of the loudest, is it? Sometimes you can hear them. It's quite deafening when you go into a hive, the sound and the vibrations that they actually make. Okay?
So, in that hive, you've probably got 60 to 80,000 bees in the summer. Honeybees. From that, you have workers, and they're females, and they do everything. You've probably got about 50,000...
Who was laughing then, the men or the females?
I know. You have about 50,000 workers, female workers, and they work completely as one organism together. You've also got drones in a hive. You'll have about 10,000 in the summer when it's breeding season. You never get any in the winter, and we'll tell you about that in a bit.
They've got a rounder bum.
Aye. Oh, you've got the pointer.
Yeah, I was using it.
Okay. And then there's a queen. Usually one queen. If there's 2 queens, you're kind of going to have a fight on your hands. But there's usually one queen in most hives. I have known a hive before have 2 queens on and running, but they didn't know each other were there. So you always have those in a honeybee hive.
So then it goes on to how they develop. So from a worker bee, so from an egg to a worker bee. So you might not be able to see it, but there's a fine grain just there and there. And it's like a tiny, tiny grain of rice, smaller than a grain of rice. And when you go into a hive, and you can imagine you've got hundreds of hives, we can't always go in and spend as much time as, say, the lady at the back that's got a hive. We go in to make sure, 1, are they healthy? Is there any disease? 2, have we got eggs? If we've got eggs, we know that there's a queen. Yes. If we see her, yes. If we don't, that's okay. We still know that there's a queen in there because of the eggs. From the eggs, it then goes, whoopsie-daisy, it then goes to a larvae. Now, the larvae should be nice and pale, pearl-like, and it goes into a segment like a tangerine. You know when you open a tangerine and you see the segments of inside a tangerine? Oh, 50p, someone's phone's gone off. So it should have larvae like that. And the worker bees, they feed the egg and the larvae, of which Tracy will explain in a moment. And then they get sealed. And then we're looking for a lovely sealed brood. What we don't want to do is look at that brood and it be pigmented, dark, or the sunken. Know that there's some kind of a disease in there. So you're looking for little things. You don't want something that looks like chalk brood, and it literally is like a mummified. So you're looking at the health all the time. So we go in, we look for eggs, we look for diseases. Okay?
So, what the other bees do for a worker bee is they'll feed that egg with pollen. So they feed it with pollen and then they seal it, like Karen said. And then that sealed brood will be there for 21 days. I always get the numbers mixed up. And then once she hatches, she will bite her way out. And because she's a female, she has a job to do from the day she starts. And this always works well when we're talking to children, because girls all go, oh, and all the boys go, yes. And that works really well with them. But they have a full apprenticeship scheme. And this is how bees work as a full democracy, and they all work completely together. As soon as a female young bee hatches, on day 1 to 2, she has to hatch, and she has to clean her own cell. That's her job. She knows instinctively that's what she needs to do. And she cleans the cells around her, ready so the queen can lay another egg in those. On days 3 to 5, there she'll be feeding the older drones, the older males. She'll be feeding those, and she'll get them ready for their flight. Because when they're about 3 weeks old, they're going to leave the hive and they're going to go and find a girlfriend. So she'll feed them. From 6 to 11 days old, she then feeds the younger drones. So she's learning how to feed and look after the rest of the colony, because no bee is one bee in a hive. They all work together. And then some days 12 to 17, she'll start developing her wax glands. Honeybees have wax glands under their abdomen, and that way they can produce it so that they can shape their wax to make it a 3D effect onto the comb, and they'll also then put the nectar and the pollen in. She will also be a cleaning bee, and she'll also take out anything as a mortuary bee outside the hive. Honeybees keep their hives extremely clean. A lot cleaner than my house, to be honest. They, if anything dies in the hive, they will take it outside, because there's no point having anything decomposing in your hive. If a mouse gets in, they'll sting a mouse to death, and then what they will do, they'll wrap it up in wax and mummify it, because they can't carry the mouse out, it's too heavy or too big, but they don't want it decaying in their hive. So let's mummify it, we won't get a smell, we won't get any bacteria in. And on her last few days, days 18 to 21 days old, she will stand at the front of the hive, and she won't let anybody else, any other bees in, unless they've got some pollen and nectar and they're awake, then that she'll let them in. And she'll emit a scent that tells the rest of the bees they're under attack. And this happens with a lot of beekeepers and a lot of bee farmers. When they get stung, as soon as they get stung, the hive's already aware then that they're under attack. So there's more likely you will get stung a couple of times. So it's nice to go nice and slowly with bees, so that your first emission of scent isn't given first of all. Okay.
So, worker bees, house bees, they are the ones, the females, that keep the colony alive. Without a female, and obviously a queen, but without the female worker bees, the colony would go. If it was a drone layer, it would go. Because drones, males, don't do anything. They don't go out and get food or anything. So they all work together. All the workers work together. It's not just one in charge. The queen's not in charge. They work together as a team. They talk to each other together as a team. And we've got a wee video there. And that's in between the frames. So what they're doing, I went in and I was moving the frames. So you've got the frames and I was moving them along, and they actually, it's as though they're holding hands together. They're stringing along together, but not one bee lets the other one go. They constantly work together and they pass each other things as well. So we thought we'd show you that wee video.
Bees pass the wax glands along because it's easier to pass it along than it is to take it yourself. So if you pass it in a chain, it's easy to put the fire out if you're using buckets, and it's the same principle with the bees.
Yep.
When bees... Hello? Oh, there you go. When worker bees get to the age of 21 days, that's when they're allowed to go out and forage. So any bees that you see in your garden that forage are older bees. They will have done their apprenticeship scheme, they'll have passed all the course, and that's when they're allowed to go out. You'll see, if you look at a young bee compared to a bee that's actually out foraging, the wings that are foraging are like slightly thinner. And it is literally because honeybees and most bees will work themselves to death. And they actually work in their wings. I have to do this motion because it makes me feel a lot better. When they're flying, they're actually working their wings so thin that that's when they can't do it anymore.
They're literally, it's just the wind, isn't it, on them? It's wind damage. If you think of a kite and how sometimes a kite can get damaged when you're doing it, it's the wind that damages them.
Honeybees have a shorter tongue. So if you're wanting honeybees in your garden or you're planting for honeybees, they've got a shorter tongue than most solitary bees. And so things like daffodils are harder for them to get their tongue in. If you were looking at the fruit farms as you're going out towards Dundee, a lot of those don't pollinate their hives with honeybees. They actually use bumblebees because they're shorter tongues, they're longer tongues, so the tongue can actually get into the flower and into the nectar and the pollen easier than a bumblebee without damaging the fruit. So that's what they're used for. But a honeybee will visit over 2,000 flowers in a day. And she will visit probably 100 flowers to get one pollen sac full of pollen before she returns to the hive. She'll also travel up for about 5 miles for a good nectar or pollen source. So quite a way, really. And they're 100 times more sensitive to the sense of smell for flowers. However, they can't see the colour red. Honeybees have 5 eyes. They have 2 eyes at the front, which are compound eyes, and they have 3 UVA eyes on the top. So when a honeybee is flying, like that, she can actually see the sun as well as the compound eyes at the front. The 2 at the front are pixelated. So did anybody have one of those kaleidoscopes when they were kids, you know, and you kind of moved it like that? Well, that's how a honeybee sees you.
We're all showing our age then when we all went, yeah, we remember the kaleidoscopes.
Yeah. So that's how a honeybee sees you. So it's pixelated. So if I was a bee and I was flying into our Karen and she starts moving her hands around, a bee can't focus on that shape because she's moving too much. However, if you stand still, they can pick up the outline of the person and they'll fly past you. So the more you do this, because you're running away from a bee, the more they will try and get into you. And I love this bit of trying to be a bee. I've noticed no one's joining in. But that's what it is. So the more you move your hands, the more they'll try and look at you even more. Let them fly straight past you, and they will do. I've got a video here of a honeybee who has gone for the first lot of pollen of the year. And this is a Christmas rose, great form of source of pollen, beginning of the year. And so are snowdrops, crocuses.
I don't know if you can see there, but you've got pollen on a pollen sacs, just there. And they will rub the pollen on the pollen sacs as they collect it. Honeybees don't actually strip the flower of everything. They will leave something there for other pollinators to go to. So they're not greedy. They will not go off and collect everything.
Bees can collect pollen when pollen's around, but they also collect nectar. And although the flowers are flowering, you might not actually get nectar off that flower. For instance, you could have a field of beautiful oilseed rape, you know, and it's really yellow and it looks like the bees would have a fantastic time. Unless it is 15 degrees or more, that rape field won't secrete nectar. It will only give a certain amount of pollen. So although they might be bringing pollen in, they're not getting any food to eat themselves. So they've got pollen for the young, for their eggs, but they actually wouldn't then. So that bring in extra nectar for the winter. In that case, then it's a poor season, exactly like this year. Just as the rape was coming out, it decided to throw it down, so there was hardly any pollen around and the temperature wasn't up. Last year at the heather was the same. Lovely purple heather fields, heather moorland. However, because the temperature wasn't high enough for the heather to secrete nectar, then you can't get stores of honey. So that's when you see the difference. So you think it's a beautiful year, beautiful flowers, but not enough nectar.
The balance has to be right, doesn't it, Tracy? So if you remember a couple of years ago, it was really, really hot. I mean, I was melting, but it was really hot. There wasn't enough water in the ground for the flowers. So again, that has an effect on it. So it has to be a nice balance. So it has to be water in the ground, heat from the sun, not too much, and then the bees will go out and go out. This year the rape was too early. I don't know if anyone noticed that the rape sites were out early this year, not later on in the year. So again, the bees won't go to it. So it all depends.
So she goes out, she gets her pollen on a pollen sac, she gets her nectar, which she takes into her mouth, and she takes that down into her nectar stomach. She doesn't regurgitate honey. Bees don't regurgitate honey. They have two separate stomachs. So that's where she keeps it. And when she comes back, she does what they call, she tells all the other bees in the hive, because they communicate fantastically, and they do that by a waggle dance. So we're going to show you a video that isn't ours, actually, because it's a slow motion one, because we want to show you the difference between a slow motion version of the waggle dance and one it's really like in a hive when you're looking in there. So this is the one from slow version.
It's called the waggle dance. This returning bee has just found a new source of nectar and is going to tell others in the hive about it. First, she gathers an audience. To do that, she climbs on her sisters' backs and vibrates her abdomen. Now that she's got their attention, she begins her dance, using a code of movements that tell her fellow workers where her discovery lies. The duration of her waggle indicates the distance to the nectar source. The longer the waggle, the further the flower. And the angle at which she dances across the comb tells them the direction to the flower in relation to the sun. Her instructions are remarkably accurate and can pinpoint the location of a nectar source over 6 kilometers away.
Now, wouldn't it be simple if it was like that every time you went in and the diagram was there and David Attenborough told you exactly where to go to? In reality, it's like this.
The pollen or the forage? Which way was it, do you reckon? Easier said than done, really. So, that's the workers. So they make up 50,000 of the bees in the hive. The 10,000 are drones. They're the boys. Now, a queen will lay 2 types of eggs. She'll lay a fertile egg and an unfertile egg. Fertile egg is the workers, the girls, and an unfertile egg is the male, the drones. And she knows what time of year it is to be able to lay the drones. So she'll know that it's coming into breeding season, and she'll lay the drones. As it's coming out, and when it's not breeding season, she won't bother. Because really, they don't do very much for the hive. They're just there then to carry on her DNA. So what she'll do is she'll lay an egg the same, and it will be slightly bigger. She'll lay the egg, they'll feed that egg, and then a drone will hatch out, just like the top picture there, after 24 days. Once it's hatched out, then it doesn't have to do anything. Not like the female workers. They will feed him. They will look after the males. They stay in the hive. They survive for about 8 weeks. And they'll stay in the hive until they're ready to go out and fly to what they call a drone congregation area. Now, that can be loads of different theories about drone congregation areas. They're not sure whether it's the flat lines, whether it's the glens that the drones go to. But they all congregate to one area, waiting for virgin queens to fly through. And then as soon as they find their girlfriend, their virgin queen, they'll mate on flight. And then they die.
Not a bad life, is it? You don't do anything, they eat, and then they go out and have a good time. That's it.
If there's any left in the autumn, the girls will decide, actually, we're not feeding you for the winter. There's no point. You're not doing anything for us. You're not going to be able to go and get mated or anything, so we'll kick you out the hive. So what they do is each worker will pick up a drone and they'll pick each side, they'll take it out the hive, they'll drop it outside, and then the guard beads at the front won't let them back in again. And that's what the drones do. She won't lay her next drones again until the next year and next season, and the queen will start laying again the drones for the breeding season. Are you going to?
Hopefully this slide will work, because I know John and myself were working on it before. So this is a maiden flight of a virgin honeybee queen. So.
And the drone congregation as well.
You might have to do it. There we go, John. So as you can see, the drones are attaching to the queen. And it's all on the wing. And then they will just fall away.
The drone dies during the mating ceremony.
So basically, a good mating is about 20 drones. So she will mate with the queen, she will mate with about 20 drones. If she does, she will be a really good queen. Because of the weather, and it is weather dependent as well, because the queen will only go out when it's nice weather, she can go out, she knows she can make it, and then come back to the hive, okay? Sometimes the weather, the way that it is, has been, she's not been able to go out, and that means she's gone past sexual maturity, and that means she will never get mated, because the sting will actually come down. So when she reaches sexual maturity, she will go out, but if she doesn't go out in time, and I've got my props here, that's a sting. The males can come along, penetrate her on flight, and then they will die as they drop away. If, however, she's been in the hive, her sting will come down, and that means they won't be able to penetrate her because the sting's come down. And that's when she becomes a dud, basically. She's a drone layer. Okay, and that means the colony will not survive at all because she can't lay any females. Now, within the hive itself, there is only one queen. The queen, which we've seen before, she's got a longer abdomen. So this is our queen, and she's got a green mark. Bee farmers, beekeepers will know that it's an international code. It's colours. Don't ask me the colours of next year until I look at my book, because I can't remember the colours. This year it's green. Last year it was red. And then we have blue, white, yellow, all different colours. And that's how we know that is this year's queen. We know red ones were last year, so then as bee farmers or beekeepers, you can then start to say she's coming past it. So we might have to look at requeening. So we know how old she is. A bit like a tup. You know when a tup's coming to the end of his days, you put him out to pasture and he just goes about a field. You know roughly the age. Once the queen is mated, she can lay up to 2,000 eggs a day. And during the busy time, that's when the hive increases, 60,000, 80,000, that's what she'll be laying. And it's the worker bees that determine whether or not she's going to lay a drone male bee or whether she wants a female bee, depending on what's out there at the moment and whether or not there's enough forage, etc., for the colony to survive. Queens can last about 4 to 5 years, but that's only if they're good layers. If they're not, then what can happen is the worker bees, the females, will decide whether or not they want to supersede her, and we know that they will put a queen cell, which Tracy will explain in a moment, higher up in the frame, and they're trying to supersede her, to get rid of her. So they will start to starve the queen by not feeding her. They will make her weaker, so when the new queen emerges, she'll kill her. Oh, it's very, very, you know, it's like Game of Thrones.
Ruthless.
Oh, it is. It's ruthless, ma'am. So they will kill her. The queen will stab the other queen because she's got a retractable sting, whereas a worker bee has got a barbed sting. So when the worker bee stings you, it goes in like a fishing hook, goes in, and when it pulls out, it leaves the actual venom sac in you. So that's why the bee dies, basically. So if you ever get stung, get your nail or a credit card and go along it and flick it out. Don't squeeze it out because you're pumping more venom in. Whereas a queen, it's retractable, so she'll sting multiple times, but it doesn't sting us, it's only to another queen. The queen, because she doesn't do anything for herself, she will only do maybe a little bit of feeding at the very, very beginning when she's a virgin. But apart from that, she's looked after by the worker bees. Without the worker bees, she would die because she doesn't feed herself. They keep her warm in winter. They huddle around her like that, but obviously tighter. And they move like penguins. You know, in the Arctic, you've seen the penguins, and they start moving around each other to keep each other warm. And that's what they do in winter with a queen. Because in the hive, it's about 32, 34 degrees in a hive. That's why we never, ever go in a hive when it's cold. And we only ever go in it in spring when it's started to be constant double figures. Otherwise, you kill the brood off because it's too cold. And it's a bit like if I went in your bedroom, and I'm going to say you, madam, if I went in your bedroom and ripped your duvet off in winter and opened the curtains and the doors and let the cold in, you'd be a bit annoyed. Yeah, that's how bees are with us as well. Okay, so who's the queen? Well, exactly the same before. The queen, the other queen, will lay an egg, but the worker bees then decide they want to bring a queen. Royal jelly. Who has royal jelly? Anybody have royal jelly in the morning? Yep, that's the larvae of a queen. Okay, so you're eating the larvae of a queen, basically. Royal jelly in its term, oops-a-daisy, that's me, you don't want to see that. No one's run out yet, no. So it's the same again, it's the queen, but this is royal jelly. Here.
So instead of feeding the egg pollen, they give it a superfood, which is royal jelly.
Which is called bee bread. Okay, what they give it, and it's a superfood, it's like a protein, it's bodybuilding food. So they feed that to the egg, and then within 16 days, 16 days it's capped.
It's a bit like when you're doing this sort of thing, is you know when you do your driving test, and then you go and drive, and then you think, which way am I supposed to hold my hands? When you're doing talks like this, you think,
16.
How many days as the queen? How many days?
So they feed it bee bread, royal jelly, and then can you see now it goes downwards along the frame? So it's not going across like this seal brood here, it's going down. And that's because, if you remember what we said on the previous slide, she's got a longer abdomen. So it goes down. And she comes out and she's this super machine. Super machine. 16 days of royal jelly. Now we, as bee farmers, don't take royal jelly off our hive. And that's only because what you have to do to it, and we want our queens. Just like we don't take populace off our hives or pollen off our hives, because that is for the bees, not for us. Okay? And then what happens is the only way that a colony can move on is the worker bees decide that they want to swarm. Swarming is the way that they continue their gene. So it goes from one to another to another. Okay? It's the worker bees that decide through the waggle dance, which we spoke about. They will come, they will back and communicate, won't they, Tracy? Not like waggle dance, but they will communicate and say, we need to swarm because we want our colony, our gene, like a surname, to survive. So they come back to the hive and they decide, we want to go here. Then another bee will come in and say, we want to go here. And they will have a conversation between each other. Not verbally, but they will discuss in their hive which is the best place to go to. And as a democracy within that colony, they will decide, yeah, that oak tree over there is better than that shed that's over there, so we'll go over to that oak tree. And then they will do a primary swarm. That's the first swarm that they will do. They will take the existing queen with them, and they will leave a capped queen cell, which you've just seen on the previous slide, in that hive. So the queen has left her princess. Okay? So she's buggered off and left a kid to survive, basically. Okay? And
when
then
the queen swarms, she only takes the flying bees with her. So she leaves all those house bees there to carry on in the hive, to still work in the hive. So she's splitting her DNA. She's creating two colonies. So that's why she's swarming.
And then this is just a bit of a video with a swarm. So you can see there at the top here is a swarm where they will land first. They will go anywhere. As soon as you see that swarm, contact somebody. That's the best time you can get it. Because once they start making residence in a cavity wall, then it's going to be very costly. Okay? And sometimes you can't get them out. So as soon as you see them, call somebody, call us. What we do is we will put them in a remote apiary because we have to check for disease first. And it's when it's like this, you can't see if there's a disease in there because they've not done anything on a comb yet. And it's only in the comb that you will know in the larvae that they've got disease. So we take them to a remote apiary. And then this one down here is when somebody didn't phone and then left it and said, oh, I've had bees in my house for about 12 months now, can you come and have a look? Well, they've already started building comb and there's honey in it.
We got called out a few years ago. We was at a Fife show, to be honest, and a customer came up and said, I've had bees in my attic for the last 5 or 6 years. I've had a quote off for pest control. They want £8,000 to move them. So we said, well, we'll come and have a look. I'm not quite sure. And as we stepped in the house, you could smell the honey. You could smell it.
You could actually feel it in the roof.
And then we went up the stairs and into the back bedroom, and you could move the ceiling with the honey. Because every year that colony will stay there if it's fit and well. It will swarm and they will change queens, but the colony will still be coming in and bringing honey in. So unless you move those from your cavity, that's what they'll do in your cavity. Andrew Abraham over in Colonsay that has the Black Bee Reservation, he can't do that on Colonsay because he's the only beekeeper there. So they all know there is bees. However, as beekeeping and bee farming is more and more increasing in Scotland, you never know whose bees are actually landing in your cavity. But it's the best time to phone them and to get them out.
Hi, so today we've been called out to a swarm, and I'm just surrounded at the moment by bees, if you can hear them, and I'm just going to show you what the swarm is. So there we go. It's quite a nice big swarm. So as you can see, I'm actually right under the tree here. You can see them. Look at them. Can you hear them? So this is a swarm, and I've got them actually all crawling on me at the moment. Don't know whether you can see, I'm just going to pick back. Can you see them crawling on my hands? Just crawling on me. They're not stinging at the moment. See? And that's because when they actually swarm, what they will do is they will feed, you can see that I'm not very good at camera, they will feed themselves on honey so that they can feed. See? So I'll just flip you back again. There we go. I don't know if you can see them in the air. So I'm actually surrounded by honeybees.
That's the actual safest time to go and have a look at bees, is when they're swarming. Because they eat too much nectar, they can't actually get the bellies round and the bum round so to get the sting out of the bum. So although it looks a bit scary and you really think she was being brave, she really wasn't.
I must admit, my nails looked very good in that film. I must have cleaned my nails for some reason. Now, I am conscious of time as well, so I'm going to just flick through that slide, because that was about training. The honey facts, I'm going to quickly do this for you. So humans have been having honey for thousands and thousands of years. Tutankhamun's tomb found honey in it, perfectly edible. I wouldn't want to eat it, but it was perfectly edible.
The reason we put sell-by dates in is not because of the honey, it's because of paperwork and red tape.
Absolutely. So it's a natural sweetener. Heather honey, good for antibiotics. It's an antibacterial. Blossom honey is good for any types of allergies, etc. Don't regurgitate honey. We've already mentioned that before. They have a separate stomach for it. The colour and taste depends on the forage that you go to. And you can have a colony here 1 year, it can be there the next year, and the honey might taste completely different because it's what's secreting at the time. Okay? And the texture of honey as well is different. Honeycomb is unprocessed. If you ever go anywhere and they say raw honey or pure honey, it's an American terminology. They've probably put an extra 50p on it. That's all it is. It's just one of them gimmicks. All honey is honey, it's raw. That's me dad at the top. Doesn't he look fetching? There he is. He's got his beard snood on. We make sure that we shave so we don't have to do that. Beard snood on, and basically we take the wax, take the honeycomb, we uncap it here, we put it through a spinner, which is a centrifugal spinner. Said that right. And then we just put it through a filter. That's it. And then we jar it. Nothing else to it. Nothing else at all. What do we do with the wax? We use everything in our hive. We then filter that wax. We refine the wax. We filter it. We make beeswax candles with it. We also put it in our cosmetics as well.
8 pounds of honey only produces 1 pound of beeswax. That's why beeswax candles are more expensive than soy, because they don't produce as much. They also, beeswax candles burn at a higher rate. It's a higher rate of melting, and it's a better light for you than artificial soy candles or anything else. And it takes 50,000 bees to produce half a pound of wax. So there we go. And then we use it in candles.
We also make our own cosmetic range as well, and furniture polishes. For enabling us to do the cosmetics has took a lot of time and money, to be honest with you, because it has to go away and we have to make sure that everything that we do is right, because there's no point me doing a lip balm and then for you to have an allergic reaction. So we have to make sure that we're right to do that. And as bee farmers, not as hobbyists, we are insured to do that. So that's why we can sell our honey, our candles and our cosmetics, because we've got the right insurance to do it. And then that's our cosmetic range. Doo-doo. And then what can you do?
So, well, you could take up beekeeping, but you're going to have to go in the hive every 5 days in the summer, because 5 to 6 days you need to go in and check that she's not making queen cells. Otherwise, if you've got neighbours, they ain't going to be too happy if they're swarming. But what you can do is, if you didn't want to take up beekeeping with honeybees, is you can support local and native solitary bees. Like I say, that we're losing those, and they're the most at danger. Start planting bee-friendly gardens. Don't go to B&Q and buy cordyline. They're no good to anyone, you know. Leave your weeds in the garden. We taught at Dollar Academy, because they had now their own bee club, and we got the children to make, well, the children, we didn't get them to do it, the children decided that they would make signs to go in windows to say, my garden is a mess, or my garden is left for the bees. And if children do it, the parents kind of help, and then Mrs. Jones doesn't complain about Mr. Smith down the road. So leave your gardens. Don't mow your lawn. It's a great excuse. Dandelions, fantastic for bees. Use some bug hotels if you want to do it with the kids or the grandkids. Get yourself some bamboo, put it into a bundle, put a lid over the top of it, get it in your garden somewhere nice and smelly, stick some lemongrass oil on it in the spring, and you'll get your solitary bees coming in, and they'll come in and they'll lay her eggs, and she'll leave them some pollen, and then she'll see how they end up, and then she'll go and lay her eggs somewhere else, and you've just saved. And then as you get through the later on the years, you'll see all the males outside waiting for the girls to hatch so they can go and get mated. Great, they won't sting you, that'll be something for the kids to see. Support Scottish producers, honey producers. You can go down Aldi and you can get honey for £2.99. It will never crystallise, it's never seen a bee, and it is usually sugar water, sugar syrup. That's what we give our bees in the winter to top them up if they haven't got enough stores or nectar, and then we'll give them fondant. If your honey doesn't crystallise, it's not pure honey. It's not good honey. If it crystallises, put the hot water on, stick it in. Stick it in the hot water while it goes cold, and as it goes cold, it'll uncrystallise. Never throw it away. And if you're really interested in solitary bees, go out and count them. We've had 6 solitary bees now that have not been seen for the last 10 years in the UK. So we're actually seeking people to look at making sure that we can count the bees. And the next bit is come and see us at the farmers' markets, because there's not many of us bee farmers around. In fact, there's not many female farmers at all. So,
one of the youngest bee farmers.
yeah.
And we're in our 40s.
I'm in my 50s.
So, yeah, 50s, 40s. We were going to bring products today. However, because of the amount of people that are here, we thought that wasn't right to do so, as we said at the beginning. But we are at Perth Farmers Market this weekend. Please come and say hello. You don't have to buy out, but just come and say hello. There's a lot of other producers there, and Perth Farmers Market is one of the only ones that you have to produce what you sell. So everyone that attends, you've got to make it to sell it. So that's an Adelaide, you know, not an Adelaide, but an accolade, is it? An accolade for Perth Farmers Market. And this is the first time that we've ever been on YouTube. We have done TikTok, haven't we?
Yes.
And we are on. If you could like us and follow us on social media, that would be great. We are rubbish at it. And we have got a website coming on soon, which will notify you if you subscribe to the Facebook and all that rubbish. So, and then the next thing is, any questions?
45 minutes on a life of bees is just not enough time. I'm really sorry.
And plus we talk a lot.
And we talk a lot, a real lot. You know, I've been doing this now 10 years and I learn something new every week, really. And that's what happens. So we'll take some questions. If we can answer them, we will do. If
There's
we
a lady
can't,
there.
we'll have a look.
A lady.
Hello.
Just before we do the questions, can I ask for Jane Foster to put her hand up? Got something for you? Thanks. Okay, think up those questions. One over there.
Can I just say thank you as well, John? Thank you. He's like the reassuring God up there. He's like, I don't know.
You want me to run around with it?
Okay, I've got a question over here.
Oh yes, thank you for your very interesting talk. I'm a volunteer for the Goodleburn After School Club, and I was very interested to hear that you take classes at school. Do you have any written down information I can take away with me just to hand in at the school?
What we can do is we can give you a card. We've got some business cards here. Drop us an email, and then we can, next year, we could pop along to the school, and depending on what time of year it is and so forth, we could do a wee little talk with the kiddies.
Oh, thank you.
We take bees to schools and work with bees at schools. Ideally, not when they're primary, to be honest, because their allergens haven't developed enough. So when we did it with Dollar School and a couple of the high schools, we've actually run a bee club. So they have their own bees on site and they manage their own bees. And we're just like the fourth emergency service when they need us. But it's run like that. But yeah, we've got some information.
Any more? If you wait a moment, I'll come to you with a mic.
Oh, sorry.
Oh. You can be like Madonna.
Would you recommend putting sugar water out for the solitary bees for them to feed on when the weather's not good?
No, sorry, no. Bumblebees can sleep up to 45 minutes. So sometimes when you see them on the ground, they're actually sleeping. And never give solitary bees honey.
No.
They say don't do that. If there is a bee on the floor, the best thing you can do is actually put it on a flower that's got pollen on it. If there isn't anything at all, then if you put sugar and water together, because you're using white sugar, you see, but if you mix it together and then put it on a saucer, but also put a stone on it, because that's what tends to happen. The bees go in, they get sticky, and they can get back out again. So if you put a stone or something in there, a couple of pebbles, that's what they can get. But I wouldn't put it out as a matter of source. What you'll end up getting is a saucer full of wasps, especially at this time of year.
And also, the reason you don't give honey to anything is because honey is, as it is, concentrated. Bees need to water that down a wee bit to take it back down to feed. So they bring the nectar back, they flap the wings to take the water content out to seal it. For them to re-eat it, they then have to water it down a wee bit to digest it. So don't give them straightforward honey. That's a reason.
One over here.
Hi. Well, I've identified from this that the funny little bumblebee is the red-tailed one, and they're small.
Yeah.
So I mean that's quite normal, yeah. They were on raspberry bushes, and regardless of the weather, day after day after day, they were coming back.
Bumblebees work harder than honeybees, and they work in colder weather. And if it's a wee bit sort of dreek, if it's drizzly, they will still go out. They're a lot hardier than honeybees. Honeybees will only go out if it's in double figures, whereas bumblebees will be earlier in the year, and then you'll see the bigger ones, really, really big bumblebees. They're the queens. And then you'll see the smaller ones later on, which are the non-queens, yeah.
Okay, people are leaving for lunch now, but a couple more quick ones.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you very much for the very interesting talk. I thought it was great.
Thank you.
One thing I was interested to know is, do you have problems with varroa mite in the colonies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, varroa's, the only place that I kind of known really is Collinsey that hasn't got varroa. Varroa is a mite that attacks honeybees, and it attacks the larvae of the bee, so it attaches themselves to the larvae and then basically stays on that as it develops and then into the bee. We do treat it. We treat it now, and whilst that, then we don't pull honey off that hive when it's been treated. At least it is being treated. I think as livestock farmers, we have a reportable duty like any other livestock, and I don't think people realise that when you have honeybees in your garden, you are responsible for reporting diseases for them. So at the moment in Scotland, especially the Central Belt, we've got a lot of American foul brood and European foul brood, and that is taking out colonies. And a lot of that is because people will go and pick a swarm up, and instead of taking it to an isolated apiary to assess what disease it's got, because you can't tell when it's in a tree, you can only tell when when the hive starts laying, the queen starts laying. So if you then put that next to another hive and they've got it, it's contagious. And American foul brood is a culling of hives. Beekeepers and bee farmers can register on what they call Bee Base. And Bee Base is a Scottish organisation that, if they bee inspectors, which they come out to us every year to check our hives. Joe Blogg's down the road that does it as a hobby, doesn't have to, but because we're bee farmers, they will. And they come out to see us, and they then, if we were infected, they would put that onto Bee Base so anyone in that area knows. So if you have got bees and you have got them in your garden, the best thing you can do is join Bee Base, because you'll know locally then if there's any diseases.
It won't tell you, oh, Karen's got X disease in her hive. It'll just tell the area. Because there's been a big outbreak in Fife recently, a very big outbreak that... It's not because you're bad or anything like that. It's been a big outbreak because one was the Scottish Bee Association, Apiary, and they got it, and it's going through that. But varroa, you might not have varroa in every hive. It might just be a hive that you have to treat. But American foul brood and European foul brood is a biggie for us, and it's because of importation. If we didn't import stuff, we wouldn't have had it. So that's how we've got it.
I mean, the other thing we've got a threat of is the Asian hornet.
Hopefully it's too cold up here.
But it's too cold up here at the moment, but down south in England, they're having a problem with that, because that will take out a full apiary.
Yep.
So fingers crossed we don't night weather.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was always under the impression that that worker bees and queens had exactly the same genes. But you tell us that on a mating flight, a queen can mate with up to 30 drones, so you'd expect the resulting eggs to be genetically variant, wouldn't you?
You would.
Yep.
You would.
Yeah.
And it isn't, because she keeps the eggs
And the sperm
separately, they're fertilised. But you would think that if drone A and drone B and drone C are well mated, then you've got you've got a queen and a drone A, queen and a drone B, so you have got a diversity there in that sense. But yeah, she will mate with those just to make sure that she's got enough sperm inside her.
Yeah.
I'll hand back to Graham.
A female honeybee, if there isn't a drone, if there isn't a queen in a hive, what a worker bee will start doing is she'll start laying eggs. But they'll be unfertile eggs because she hasn't got the eggs and the fertility organs that she needs. So they'll be infertile eggs, and she'll lay, instead of laying one egg per cell, she'll lay a number of eggs in them because she's not had much practice. So she lays about 3 or 4 eggs in the same cell. But what happens then is, because you've got a laying worker that's doing it, when you put a queen in there, then they won't accept the new queen's pheromones because they've already got something already in there. So literally it's kind of shaking them out and starting again. So
Thank you.
Right, thank you, ladies.
No, thank you.
There's no doubt in your enthusiasm for for what you're actually doing, and congratulations on trying to save the honeybee. And very interesting talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We hope that I'm at Farmers Market on at the weekend with youth.
Oh, great.
So I'll probably see you there.
Yeah.
All right. So can we show the appreciation with a round of applause? Thank you.
Bow, Tracer.
So thank you for all of you for attending again, and have a safe journey home, and hopefully see you soon at the next talk. Thank you.